Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 11 kilometers per second, where our goal is to help you escape the forces that hold you back and allow you to soar into the heavens. Shoot for the moon, and even if you miss, you'll be amongst the stars. So 11 kilometers per second is the escape velocity, the force at which something must move in order to escape Earth's gravity and soar into to the heavens. And so this is a metaphor for getting around the things that held you back. Today I want to talk about two things. One is going to be on surrender. So in the previous episode, which I will air before this one, I speak about faith. And so this is a deeper version of faith. As a skeptic, as a person who, likes to be given what I feel like is enough proof to believe in something. I talked about faith and why it's important, and so I want to delve into that even a little bit more. It's like surrender, faith on a level where you begin to surrender to what is possible, as opposed to always trying to have answers and figuring it out. And how that is important for success. And then I want to talk about also why I think it's important for getting around the things that hold you back, using social media, the stage in life that we're in, where everybody has a platform and everybody has the ability to go in and tell their story. Why that's important, because I think, as with everything, especially folks of a certain age, people my age nowadays, obviously, this is the nature of being a human being, alive, is that you at some point you were young. And so, I know that for many of us, a lot of what what our parents were like, saying was bad and all that good stuff, especially if you're a child of an immigrant. You came here and, your parents wanted to hold on to their traditions from where they were from. They came for opportunity, not necessarily to change. And so, being young, we want to belong. And just as a child who's growing up and things are changing, you're always embracing the new thing. And the old folks are like, well, this is what worked and this is what we know. And so this is what's best. And they're always, lamenting all the different changes and saying it's all going to hell. And who knows, perhaps there's some level of that. But I mean, I've seen, from what I can see of society, is that essentially things have improved. Like there is a rising tide. If there's different arguments that could be made about that. But I mean, generally speaking, there's a lot more prosperity in the world, even if, there is disparity, which is a difference, right? I'm not, we're not going to argue that there isn't disparity in the world, but as far as our ability to live in a more comfortable place, that's definitely increased. Every human being, for the most part, at this point, can pick up a phone and call somebody across the world. We are, for the most part, living like kings. Chariots that freaking drive you places that would have taken you days to get there. We now have those, and we're able to do it in hours. The way that most of us are able to live, that's vastly improved from what has happened. But in case, let's just talk about what is happening like nowadays. Like I know that like a lot of the music now, this is how you're getting old, when you're listening to the music and you're like, yo, this stuff is crap. Because I remember they used to say that about our music. And so, and I'm looking, and a lot of us are looking at this new wave of rappers, and it's like, oh my, what the heck are these people talking about? So yes. Even though I still, indulge in some of the good stuff that that you hear on TV, that you hear on the radio. But I remember there was a time when it's like, oh, our kids are listening to the same songs as our parents. But like now you got Sexy Reds and stuff like that. It's like, yo, I can't. And don't tell me it was just like Lil Kim and Kaya and all those other things, because the truth is that I feel like those folks it was more entertainment. Not to say that they do the things that they said, but it was more entertainment as opposed to like a complete lifestyle, where, you're out in these streets acting the fool and, out in different countries, like just really out here being ratchet. And as opposed to, saying, okay, this is what we say in entertainment. Like it just feels much more true for these folks. Like this is a promotion as opposed to like, hey, we're trying to make money. But promotion of a lifestyle as opposed to like promotion of an art form and that kind of thing. And it's like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just old, but like, and to the point where, they say, I forget who it was that said this. I think it was in a movie. It was like when, if you don't have, when you're young, if you're not liberal, something to that nature, if you're not like whatever, if you're not liberal, then you don't have any heart. And when you're older, if you haven't turned establishment, then you don't have a head. And right now, you start to realize that there is a responsibility that we have as society, and there is a reason for structure, and there is a reason why, things actually work. The things that I'm talking about with these chariots and things like that, like there is a reason why some of these things are put together. You have to have discipline. You have to make choices, and everything is not necessarily possible because you have to decide what is most important and actually accomplish something. And that doesn't just happen on its own. It doesn't happen because, life is fanciful and all that good stuff. And so when you start to realize that, you start to be like, all right, well, as much as we just want to have fun, you got to steer yourself in a particular way. Any case, again, the reason I'm talking about this right now is because, one of the things that is true of us, our generation right now, is like, I think we've been slow to embrace social media. And especially with respect to what I'm doing with 11 kilometers per second, where my focus is largely on Black men. I think for us too, and I talked about this in other episodes, it's like, the idea of us putting ourselves out and behave. It's not that it's not done, because there's a lot of folks out here who, and it's increasingly getting that way, where people are out here getting onto the social media, doing podcasts like this. But a lot of folks, it is a slow entry where there has to be acceptance of this, because everybody's like, oh, you're all supposed to come in and be cool. And like, here's the image. It's, James Bond smooth and, strong, silent type thing. That's the imagery of what a Black man is supposed to aspire to. And it's all, I'm not sure. I mean, why is that? I could come up with a theory off the top of my head here. I'm thinking, we associate strong people with the ones that are, not easily moved, I suppose. Like they're not emotional because they can control themselves. I suppose that, the person who comes in is like, here's what we're going to do, and it's not easily moved. And that potentially looks like somebody who is constantly calm. And obviously that's not necessarily the case, right? You may, and a lot of times it's just scared, right? Obviously also, if you don't expose your fear, you don't expose any emotion, you're sitting there quaking in your boots, nobody can say you're not I'm scared. The only thing that I have is what's in my own head and not what's in yours. And so I can't tell whether or not you're afraid. And so I'm just going to assume it seems like you're completely comfortable. Truth is that the people who are comfortable are the ones who are constantly being themselves. They're the ones who are strong. But in any case, what I want to say is that we are in an age where I think this is the direction that we were always moving as a race of a race of species of human beings, like where everybody is like, everybody has their own unique perspective, right? Nobody sees the world the same as anybody else. and we live in a subjective world where everybody's understanding of what's happening is in their own heads. We can't really ever share what other people share, even as we try to come close to it. Like we try to say, okay, the thing you're looking at, I'm gonna call it blue. Is that what you want to call it as well? Okay, that thing we're looking at is blue. Even though the truth is I have no idea what color you're actually seeing. It may be completely different than what I'm seeing, but everything is subjective. And so we go with whatever it is that we try to standardize in order to be able to communicate, to cooperate, to build, and all that good stuff. And so, we are at a point where everybody's able to add their own piece to this puzzle that we're building together as we go along. And it's important that everybody go out and add their piece. And as fearful as that may be, because you are opening yourself up to scrutiny, you are, the minute you start to speak, people down then are going to look. You make a noise, I'm going to look in that direction. When I look in that direction, now I have, my own opinions about what's going on. And this is the people who are stronger, the ones who are able to withstand those opinions and keep going. And so if you keep going, you start to hone your own skills and you add to the beautiful, cacophony, the beautiful, kaleidoscope of different things that are happening there. And so I think this is where we were all going. And the reason why it is important to participate is because in terms of, being able to let go of the things that hold you back, is because you're practicing exposing yourself, right? You're practicing not being fearful, of being anti-fragile, because you are putting yourself out there, and the ability to take what's coming at you and still keep moving, take a licking and keep on ticking, is a practice that allows you to get better. It allows you to not, fear the judgment that holds a lot of us back. A lot of times I'm even thinking to myself, like, man, I'm at the age where that shit should have been happening. If it didn't, go do what go do what is expected of you, of a person this age. And I'm like, nah, or I'm a black man, or I'm with this. And these thoughts do enter into your mind. And so that's just another thing that, the ego does to try to keep you small, that try to keep you from getting hurt. Really, it's its intention is to try to keep you from getting hurt, but then it also keeps you from getting big, keeps you from thriving. And so there's always an excuse that could come up. When you were younger, I had to do what was expected in terms of, go to the schools. This is what's the most beneficial. This is what's likely not to lead to failure, all this other stuff. And then you get to a point when you're older and you're like making the same or similar excuses as to why it is that you shouldn't go do what the heck is in your brain and your mind and your soul and your spirit to do. And so going out and adding your piece and also practicing how to let go of the things that hold you back is a great form in order to be able to do that. Before this, you couldn't get this out. Like, you could definitely record yourself. You can get on a journal and start writing, but nobody would likely hear it. Nowadays, I put it out and I might hit a whole bunch of folks who become my audience because they hear what I'm saying and it resonates with them, and it helps them to start to create their own story. So, that's an important thing. And to add to the whole concept of like how we have been slow to embracing this as, a group of a certain age, and even as a race or gender and that sort of thing, is, I'm seeing that we don't know that, or we haven't embraced that this is the direction that the world is going in. Like, there's no going back. It's going to be tenfold. Everybody is going to be online. If you've seen Ready Player One, where everybody's like playing these video games virtually, that may be the case. But I know for a fact that everybody's going to be online. Everybody's going to be putting their piece to it. And so the slower you are to embracing that, the more you'll be like, damn, I wish I start. This is gonna be like crypto, right? Everybody's like, damn, I wish I invested earlier. Damn, you're going to wish you were online doing the things that everybody's doing earlier, because every indication of where we're going is a society where, you know, individuals are their own entrepreneurs. Like they're individual, all individuals are entrepreneurs. We already have like contract workers. We have the gig economy where everybody's like doing their gigs and all this other stuff. We have you know, Upwork, where people are putting out their skills that they have so that others can you know, hire them, so that they're not relying on an institution in order to be able to deliver to earn a living and deliver whatever expertise that they have to the end user. So, you know, this is where everything is going. Everybody's going to be doing this thing individually, and the quicker that you start to build your brand and the quicker that you start to be known for a certain thing, is the quicker and the more value that you're building earlier. And you know, I'm dealing with a whole bunch of traditional business folks who don't know this yet. Even the bigger guys know this. They're on social media as well. It's like, they know where it's going. It's just that there's only so much that they can do being the size that they are, because this is a era that we're moving into that is all about individuals. It's all about authenticity. It's all about being able to connect to people. It's all about the personality. And it's going to be more and more difficult for folks to be able to do that if they're not like the Richard Branson types, you know, who are like, this is the personality and then I associate it with my brand. This is where everything is going. And so if you don't recognize this yet, you're going to be late to the party. So, you know, start now. And the beauty of it is it makes it so much easier for anybody to come in and get started, right? You don't have to necessarily have, you know, friends, family, and fools, right? Because that's part of the reason why the poor stay poor. You know, black folks stay poor is because, you know, to start a business, most of us are coming in talking about, okay, can I get a loan? Can I get a grant? And, you know, our richer counterparts are like, hey, I'm going to go to my network. I'm going to go to my family and ask for, you know, the money, the startup capital that's going to give me the ability to do what I need to do. Nowadays, you just have to come in and talk. Like that, it's that easy. Like this stuff is free. Come in and talk and build an audience. From that, once you build an audience, like let's think about the people who are so influential. We're talking about 25-year-old kids like Kai Cenat, who are making millions of dollars, traveling to different parts of the world, donating tons of money. They started just by getting on TV and sharing themselves. This is where we're going, guys. Like, embrace this, understand it, know it, get in it, or you're going to be late to the party. And you can start slow, start whatever it is that you're doing, and get there. And eventually, you'll know, you'll get more comfortable and you'll get there. And I understand this and I'm embracing it. And, you know, 10 years down the line or however long, we'll see where I am. It's all about consistency. Now that was number one thing that I wanted to talk about. The next thing that I want to talk about is, you know, the continuation of the concept of faith and surrender. And the reason I got here, because I talked about faith in the other one, you know, and how it's important in that to understand that we barely know anything, right? There's very little that we know. In fact, probably everything that we know is like, if you want to get right down to the real basic understanding of it, like the idea of existentialism, like the idea of whether or not we're even, you know, having this experience. And people talk about, okay, what if we're all in a dream and all that good stuff? Well, I'm telling you this, at the very least, we know we're having an experience because you feel your experience. I know I'm having an experience. I feel some sort of thing. I think, therefore I am, you know, and whether or not you are not, you know, the audience, whoever is there that I'm interacting with is just a part of my figment of my imagination, is only for me. If you feel like you who is listening to this is having an experience, then then you're in a dream as well. So, as you're having an experience. So every person individually, myself included, if you're listening to this, you're thinking you this included, you're having an experience as well. And so that's the only thing that we know that's true. Everything else is stuff that we think and we're making up, and we're like saying, based on what we can see, I think this is like that. But even that's on that level. But even more than that, right? Most of what we know of in science is because we were told and we believed. It's not like we went and did the experiment ourselves. Like, we believe. All of it is based on faith, really. And this is a point that I was trying to make. Well, some of the points that I was trying to make, it went into a lot more. So check out the video once. I'll actually link it to this video. But this time I wanted to talk about a little bit deeper than faith, right? And that is, it may be a combination of two things that brought me here, or I don't know at this point where it was, but I know that, I was reading this book called Rich as Fuck. It's by this woman named Amanda Frances, and she writes for women, but I thought it was also really brilliant. I was just, I started listening to it because it was recommended to my wife, and it was on the Audible when we were driving somewhere. I was like, hey, then let's start listening. I was like, oh, this is good. And she talks about how, you really have faith, and it's going to happen when you don't, like everything, all indication is that it's not going to work, and you believe anyway. And I don't know if this is, the origin of this, or if it was one of the things that coincided or affirmed the belief that I started to have, which was, to stop trying to figure it, like to stop trying to put a logical explanation around faith, because I've always wanted to believe, but I've always come in with doubt. Like, it's like, yeah, you say this, but I've seen multiple examples of this thing not actually working out. I've seen people say they believe, and then the thing didn't actually happen. Or I've tried to believe, right? Some people will say, well, your faith is not as strong, right? They'll say your faith is not as strong if you didn't, whatever. And then there's some people who are like, my faith is so strong, I'm going to heal myself. And, if they have a terminal disease and it freaking doesn't work out. And so, like, these are all examples of things that will get you to be like, okay, well, I don't know what these people are talking about. Like, this stuff is not real. And so because of that doubt, like, I've always wanted to be like, all right, well, I need for this to be explained in a logical way before I start to say, okay, this is actually true. So, and so because I am that type of person, I've always been looking for those types of explanations, which as a result made me really good at being able to explain things once I'm able to explain it to myself. Because I had to do it for myself. So because I had to do it for myself, now I feel like I can now do it for others. And so what I realize is that although it's important, initially, you got to get to the point where you surrender and just believe, because by the very nature of faith is that if you start to try to figure it out, it stops becoming faith. It becomes, it is not only does it stop becoming faith, because faith is just the belief, right, without the evidence. Conviction. What was that I heard this morning? Like the conviction of something. I wish I had that. In any case, it not only is it not faith because you now are not convicted by what you don't see or what doesn't seem like it's true, which is not faith, but you also start to create the doubt from sitting here like, I don't know, let me see how it works, right? Faith means that you have to surrender and be like, all right, I know that it's going to work. And, in essentially believing in magic, really, because we do live in a magical world. Like, as much as you want to think it's scientific. It's, because there are laws and rules, or it appears to be, there are things that you would want, like in your mind, for magic to look like. You would want it to be maybe instantaneous. We're going to say, well, magic should be instantaneous, but no, maybe it's an accumulation of energy. And because your energy that you're putting out is not, it takes time before, but before you were putting some sort of energy that was pushing in this direction, right? And now you want to go in this direction, in the opposite direction. And you're thinking that because you just said it, all you have to do is believe, and it has to immediately turn around and do an about face and start moving that other direction. But maybe that's not how the magic works. Maybe the magic works where you have to you have to first let that energy of this one dissipate and become nothing, going in this direction, in order to accumulate enough energy to go in that direction. And so there's a delayed time for that. But because you haven't seen it happen, you start to doubt. And as a result, the energy that you need to move in the other direction is not there enough, right? And so you just have to be patient. Yes. So in that case, that means there are some things that you have to allow and wait to happen. Also, the fact that, perhaps the magic that is out there doesn't necessarily mean that everything is curable. Everything that you want to do, is doable. Maybe you can't fly. Who knows? Maybe we haven't come up with the energy that is going to allow that to happen, or the energy that we're talking about with respect to flying is not in the way that we are thinking about it. But who knows? Again, the delay in time is going to allow for one day when we figured out how to manipulate our genes in order to create an ability to fly. And so why is that not considered magic? Because you have now found a way to create it, right? Like at one point we could not fly, right? At one point we could not fly. At this point now we are able to. And because you said, hey, well, here's the explanation, it's not magic. No, if all these things that we imagine we now are able to create, then that's us exercising the magic. It's just not in the way that you think magic should work, right? Another thing too, if you think about it, if the world is infinite, and life is infinite, and this is for those people obviously who are not religious, right? Or who are skeptical about religion, or who are spiritual, but some level of spirituality, but then they're it's not like these really faith-based people who are like myself in essence. Although I would say I'm probably a lot less, I guess, faith-based than a lot of the people of the world. But we are moving. We do live in a more and more secular place. But so what the thing is, with respect to magic is if you don't believe in God, for example, at the very least, which what we know is that this thing is infinite, right? So the idea of the Big Bang, okay, all this stuff created from nothing, or from a singularity, or whatever the case may be. Well, what would happen before there was a singularity, right? There's always a what was before, what was before, what was before. So as a result, because there is never any end to this stuff, it necessarily is magic. You're never going to be able to say, and this completes it all, which means, okay, who created this thing? Well, then who created that person who created that thing? And who created, you'll never be able to get to the point where you say, this is the entire thing, which by definition means it just poof happened, right? That's magic. That's another way to think about it. If you need the explanation for why it is that, you should just believe in magic and therefore surrender to the magic. The other thing too is a lot of times, we will put words to things and then say, as a result, this is scientific and not magic, right? So one of the things that happens is like when you focus on something, you start to see it all of the time, right? They call that the I think it's a reticular activating system, where your brain, like for example, if you just bought a new car and it's a red Honda or whatever the case may be, and before this you would like miss red Hondas all the time, and now you're seeing red Hondas all of the time. So we'll say, well, this is what happens, your brain does this, and as a result your brain, like we just said that the brain does it. It's not like we actually explained it. Why does the brain do that? Is it an energy thing? Or yes, well, the brain is now noticing a thing, but why is it not just your brain getting onto a different wavelength? Isn't that just an answer? But now that we said it's sort of the reticular activating system, we've made it scientific. No, you still haven't really created an answer for what's happening there. And so it's important for you to recognize that we don't know anything, in the idea that you think you did. So as a result, you're going to now say you're going to be skeptical of something. Is just it's misguided. And so what you need to do is determine what is in your best interest, right? Is it better for you to sit here and be skeptical and be like, oh my God, the world is never going to give me what I want? Or is it better for you to have faith even when it seems like it's impossible, even when it doesn't necessarily work out, for you to continue to be like, all right, I think things are moving in a positive direction for me, and I'm going to pursue it that way. It's better for you to do that, because at the very least, then you actually put effort towards that. And when you do put effort towards that, with conviction, I can tell you one thing is true. You can look at the people who are out here with conviction. We as human beings are attracted to people with conviction, with it comes off as passion. And this is what attracts us to human beings. It's like, wow, this person definitely is like, when that person, this is what leaders are made of. Like visionary leaders, they have a direction that they're going, they're convicted about it. And that is a faith, because whatever it is that they believe in, that they believe so truthfully in, it's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily going to lead to anything. When you have that conviction, people are attracted to it. And like they say, the universe conspires to make it true, because people are attracted to it, because you continue to move in that direction, because of all this other stuff, things start to work your way. And I don't know why that would not be magic. I mean, or even, energy, like people talk about, like, what is your energy? What is your high level energy, or that kind of thing? I don't know why that would not be energy, like any other thing of this world is. E equals mc squared, right? Energy equals mass times the constant squared, speed of light. So that's like, we're talking about everything being energy. So why would that not also be energy that's being formed? Like, scientifically speaking, we can talk about that being the case too. So in essence, what you need to do if you are a skeptical person is get to the point where you just surrender and allow it to happen. Allow what is going to happen. Continue to believe and keep putting one foot in front of the other, because that is the requirement for you to succeed as well. Surrender. All right. This is my episode for today. Thank you for your time. Enjoy it. Have a good day. Bye.